Good morning and welcome to Barbaros Bulletin. I'm your host Barbara. Today we're going to dive into the latest developments from Indonesia, where President Prabowo Subianto is marking his first year in office. As he celebrates this milestone, student groups are planning a protest near the presidential palace in Jakarta, citing concerns over government policies and the country's future. Let's take a closer look at the story. According to reports, the protest is being organized by a coalition of student bodies known as BEM-SI, who have expressed their dissatisfaction with the current state of affairs in Indonesia. The students are using social media to mobilize support for their cause, with hashtags such as "One Year Is Enough" and "One Year of Continuous Problems." Meanwhile, President Subianto is holding a cabinet meeting to mark his first year in office, during which he is expected to highlight his administration's achievements and outline his plans for the future. However, critics have accused the president of adopting a personalized approach to diplomacy, with some experts describing it as FOMO diplomacy, driven by a fear of missing out on major global gatherings rather than a measured long-term strategy. To get a better understanding of the situation, we can look at the comments from Radityo Dharmaputra, a foreign policy analyst at Indonesia's Airlangga University. He notes that President Subianto's approach has been too personal so far, and that everything depends on the president's preferences. This has led to concerns about the lack of coordination between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the president's office. On the other hand, Indonesian Deputy Foreign Minister Arief Havas Oegrosenyo has rejected criticism of President Subianto's diplomatic approach, stating that there is no lack of coordination between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the President's office. He believes that the President's administration has aligned with the principles of Indonesia's foreign policy, including sovereignty, active engagement, and public benefit. As we consider these different perspectives, it's clear that the situation in Indonesia is complex and multifaceted. We'll continue to follow this story and provide updates as more information becomes available. For now, let's take a step back and look at the broader context. President Subianto's first year in office has been marked by both achievements and challenges, from his efforts to address climate change to the protests and criticisms from various groups. As Indonesia continues to navigate its place on the global stage, it's essential to consider the diverse views and opinions of its citizens. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Barbaros Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbaros Bulletin. We're glad you're still with us as we dive into the latest developments from around the world. Our middle segment today takes us to the Middle East, where tensions continue to escalate between Yemen's Houthi rebels and Israel. We've been following this story closely, and recent reports indicate that the Houthis have held a funeral for their military chief of staff, Maj. Muhammad Abdul Karim al-Gamari, who was killed in an Israeli strike. The ceremony, attended by over 1,000 people in the rebel-held capital of Sana'a, has further heightened tensions between the two sides. To provide some context, the Houthis have been involved in a long-standing conflict with the Yemeni government and its allies, including Saudi Arabia. The rebels have also been known to launch attacks on Israeli targets, citing solidarity with the Palestinians over the war in Gaza. Israel, in turn, has responded with airstrikes against Houthi positions, leading to a significant escalation of violence in the region. It's worth noting that the United Nations and the U.S. Treasury have sanctioned al-Gamari for his role in orchestrating the Houthis' military efforts, which have been deemed a threat to regional peace and stability. The U.S. and Israel have also launched a joint campaign against the Houthis in response to their missile and drone attacks on Israeli targets and ships in the Red Sea. As we strive to provide a balanced perspective on this complex issue, it's essential to acknowledge the humanitarian implications of this conflict. The war in Yemen has resulted in thousands of civilian casualties and a devastating humanitarian crisis, with millions of people in need of aid. We'll continue to monitor developments in this story and provide updates as more information becomes available. In the meantime, we encourage our listeners to stay informed about the complexities of this conflict and its far-reaching consequences. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Barbarous Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. As we wrap up today's show, I'd like to bring you an update on the ongoing situation in Gaza. The region has been plagued by conflict for years, and despite recent efforts towards a ceasefire, tensions remain high. According to reports, Israel launched strikes on southern Gaza, accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire agreement. The Israeli military claims that its troops came under fire, prompting a response that targeted Rafah. However, Hamas has denied any knowledge of clashes in the area and has instead accused Israel of breaching the truce. This development comes just over a week after the U.S. proposed ceasefire was put in place, aiming to bring an end to 2 years of war in the region. The situation remains delicate, with both sides trading accusations and blame. U.S. envoy Jared Kushner has weighed in on the issue, stating that Israel must find a way to help the Palestinian people thrive if it seeks regional integration after the conflict is resolved. He emphasized the need for joint security and economic opportunities to ensure that Israelis and Palestinians can live peacefully side by side. As the situation continues to unfold, it's essential to remember that the conflict in Gaza is complex and multifaceted. Both sides have legitimate concerns and grievances, and a lasting resolution will require a nuanced and balanced approach. It's also worth noting that the international community has a crucial role to play in supporting efforts towards peace and stability in the region. By promoting dialogue, understanding, and cooperation, we can work towards a future where all parties can coexist without fear of violence or persecution. That's all for today's Barbara's Bulletin. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay engaged.